this week we're starting a new series called He Shall Be Called. And goes back to when Isaiah in the Old Testament prophesied that Jesus would be coming. Hi, Ellie. So if you look at Isaiah 9:6, it says, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." These words were written by Isaiah about 700 years before Jesus was even thought of. He knew that Jesus was coming and that he would be these things. And over the next 4 weeks leading up to Christmas Eve, we're going to be talking about each one of these things. And this week we're going to be talking about Wonderful Counselor. And you look at Wonderful Counselor, and we see that Jesus is here to counsel us through everything that we go through. And Wonderful Counselor, he brings wisdom and guidance beyond anything the world could offer. We look at the world sometimes and we think that we can put our trust in other things, or we can have people counsel us for the things that are going on in our lives, but that's not exactly right. See, these aren't just a poetic name that was given to Jesus. These were things that he was going to fulfill here on earth. One of the greatest needs in our world and in our country is wisdom. Right now, we live in a time that we see conflict arising. We see people fighting. We see media influencing everything, from who we are to what the politics looks like in our country. We see podcasters talking about endless amount of things. We have family that gives us advice over and over and over again. We even have these self-help gurus that claim that if you just buy their book, that you would be able to do whatever you need to do. See, Isaiah proclaims that Jesus is a wonderful counselor. Today we're going to explore what is a wonderful counselor. Like I said, in today's world, we're surrounded by overwhelming amount of advice. We get it from all over the place. Let's say that you, like these kids, need advice. So you're going to call one of your friends, maybe a family member, and you ask for the advice, and suddenly you're bombarded with all this advice. Your best friend says, follow your heart. Your parents tell you to play it safe. The Facebook post tells you to live your truth. And the book that you bought says you need to buy another book so you can know how. That's enough to make one person's head spin, yet we see it across the board. Every person has an opinion on how you should be doing something. The problem isn't unique to just us. That's the same that was happening when Jesus was around. We see the Pharisees emphasizing the strict policies. You have to do this, you have to do this, and you have to do this, and if you don't, then you're going to hell. We see the Sadducees coming in and saying, you have to vote for this person, you have to vote for this person, and if you don't believe that, then you're going to hell. You see the Romans come in with an iron fist that comes down and says, you will follow what we believe, and if you don't, then you will be locked up. See, Advent, this time before Christmas, reminds us that Jesus came to meet our deepest needs. The need for clarity and for direction. And we can trust that he is going to point us in the right way. See, Jesus entered as a wonderful counselor. His words weren't just another voice in the crowd. You saw it when Jesus would come into a crowd, people would stop and they would listen. The things that he had to say were heavy, but they made sense. Why is it so dangerous for us to not believe all the advice that comes from the world? Well, first, it creates confusion and chaos. What do you believe? Do you believe what is being said on social media? Do you believe what's being said at the coffee shop? Do you believe what's going on in our community is here for happening for a reason? Or do you think it is purely out of one person's iron fist? Not only does it create confusion and chaos, it feeds our anxiety. We are people of anxiety. And as much as someone may say, I don't have anxiety, well, if you're checking your stock market every day, if you're looking at the newspaper or turning on the news every morning, if you're logging in on Facebook or Instagram, you are a person of anxiety because you want the information to feed what's going on inside you. Because if you don't have those things, then your life feels boring. Chaos, craziness, confusion, anxiety. And then when we start to live in those things, it starts to pull us farther and farther away from Jesus. We start to astray from him. We have to remember that not all advice is good advice. Some people may give you bad advice. Like when I asked the kids what would happen if they ate a big bowl of candy for dinner. Think of it this way. Even Adam and Eve were confused in the garden. They had no sin, nothing going on. God comes to them and says, the only thing that you can't do is eat from that tree. That tree is off limits. Everything else, open. And then in comes Satan and says, oh, you can eat from that tree. God didn't say that you couldn't eat from the tree. He just said you couldn't be by the tree. Again, you see advice coming into someone's life and changing what Jesus or God has been saying to make sense of their situation. So what did they do? They ate from the tree. And it caused craziness, confusion, anxiety. It pulled them away from God. See, the world's advice is overwhelming and it's unreliable. We hear countless voices vying for our attention. What is it that grabs your attention? See, we fall short when we forget that Jesus is the person with all the answers. Jesus is the true counselor. In Luke 6:46 through 49, Jesus teaches that those who hear his words are like building their house on solid rock. His wisdom is strong enough to withhold any storm. What makes Jesus' counsel even more extraordinary is his ability to understand things that we don't. We don't understand why people get cancer. We don't understand why a family gets in a car accident and the mom and dad survive and the kids don't. We don't understand those things. And those things are really hard, and we're searching for why those things happen. But you know who does understand those things? Is Jesus. We may not understand it, but Jesus does. Jesus' wisdom isn't limited to our temporary struggles. Jesus is why we need a counselor. He is a counselor that we can trust. His words are reliable, and his authority is unmatched. I want to read Luke 6:46 through 49 to you. And this is Jesus talking to a crowd. So he's got their attention, and his words are heavy. So it says, "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and you do not do what I say?" See, he's already calling them out on that. He's already saying, listen, you call me Lord. You come to me for advice, and you're not listening to what I'm saying. As for everyone who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice, I will show you what they are like. They are like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. When a flood comes, the torrent strikes the house, but could not shake it because it was well built. But the one who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. The moment that the torrent strikes the house, it collapsed and its destruction was complete. This is Jesus stepping in and saying, hey, listen to me. I have some advice for you. I have the only advice for you. And if you don't listen to me, your life is going to be crazy. It's going to be a mess. You're going to be filled with anxiety. You can build what I'm saying on solid rock. It's not going to be taken away easily. Jesus paints this vivid picture of these two houses that are built. They're identical. When looking at them, you can't tell a difference between those two houses. It's like going through the neighborhoods that the house builders put up, and every house looks the same, right? Neighbor house, your house, and the other neighbor house, they're exactly the same layout. And you're looking at these houses, and you don't know how they're built, but Jesus knows that if you build your house deep down in the ground, on the rock, instead on that loose soil, it's going to hold up. No matter the wind, the rain, no matter the storm. And after what we just came from talking about last few weeks, those storms in your life are going to come. They're going to come. See, Jesus' words, they're not just advice. They are words of life. He offers truth that can transform us. See, in that passage, Jesus is using what we call a parable. Something that is a short story that would make sense to the people. They're probably all standing around houses at the time, so they would understand that these houses all look the same. Jesus always comes in with these short stories so we can understand. It makes sense. He comes and counsels us. It's like, you ever go to a doctor and they're explaining to you what's wrong with you and you have no idea what's going on? Like, they're using these $3 million words that they got from their schooling, and you just sit there and scratch your head. And then you have to wait until they leave out and the nurse comes in and you can say, what does that all mean? See, Jesus is the total opposite of that. He comes in and he talks to us in a way that we understand. He comes in and he says, you know what? I know that you know about houses, or I know that you know about farming. And he comes in and he tells us the truth. See, obedience isn't about earning God's favor. It's about living into the wisdom. When we obey, we're not just following rules. When we listen to Jesus, we're not just following rules. We're building a life that can withstand storms. Whether these storms are personal struggles, eternal challenges, or ultimate trial of judgment. Obedience to Jesus equips us so we can stand firm in the things that we believe and say, that is not truth. That is not truth. This is the truth that Jesus stands on. This is the truth that he says is truth. Those kids know. They know. See, the wisdom of this world shifts. It's always shifting. Believe this. Oh, now you can't believe that. You hear often, oh, don't drink coffee because it's going to make you short. Oh, it's okay to drink coffee. Oh, don't have milk because it's going to make you fat. No, you can drink. It's going to make your bones strong. It shifts all the time. We have no idea what's going to come out next. And we know that everything will fade. It says so in Matthew 24:35. It says, heaven and earth will pass away. That means everything will pass away. Not only here on earth, but in heaven also. Everything's gone. But the one thing that will always remain is his words. His words will never pass away. So we can hold strong to knowing that no matter what happens in our lives, that if we have the words of Jesus Christ, if we have him in our hearts, that he will keep us close. He empowers us to go out and live. He teaches us to do things that maybe don't feel comfortable to us. He pushes us out of our comfort zone. He teaches us that if the world's going this way, we need to be going this way. We have to fully embrace those things, or we're going this way with the world. Especially when it comes to living in the Word. Not just Jesus' spoken word, but also the written word in the Bible. A lot of times we want to take the Bible and we want to make it fit us. And it was never meant for that. The Bible was written for us to grow closer to Jesus. It is for us to know what our laws are and what we can do and what we can't do. Unlike the wisdoms of the world, unlike the teachings of the world, Jesus' counsel is unchanged. His word is unchanged. No matter how much people want to try to change the word, no matter how much people want to change what it says in the Bible, it doesn't change, no matter what. Jesus is the same as he was 2,000 years ago. He is here in this place with us. He is living within us. He is in us for us to go out and spread that good news. This Advent, this season leading up to Christmas, is time for us to take a stand and say, hey, Jesus is these things. I want you to know about Jesus. When the craziness of your life happens, I want you to know that he's there to counsel you. I want you to know that he is a Prince of Peace. He is a mighty God. He is there loving on each one of us. Jesus knows better than anyone else what we're going through because of what he did on the cross for us. As we prepare for this Christmas, I challenge you to take time each day to listen to what Jesus is saying to you. What is he saying to you? That means you have to shut up and listen. That means you have to be in his word. That means you have to be praying often. You have to do these things. It's one thing to come here for an hour on Sunday morning and listen to me talk. It's another to be actually doing these things. You have to do them. And I'm challenging you to do them this Christmas Advent season.